Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
It is 7:37. It is Brian Wilson, Brian Neiman. You are listening to WMAL. It's the place where Washington comes to talk. And each evening about 6 o'clock, one of the places that Washington listens to is one Mark Levin, the great one. He's with us now. I cannot believe he's on the line as we speak, up early this morning, and glad to have you with us, Mark.
It's a great pleasure here on the Mall.
Here on the Mall.
You're enjoying the Mall this morning.
I really am.
Fantastic.
It's good
all
to
the
be,
homeless people and everything.
It's good to be on the Mall. Hey, I'm just going to say this. SCOTUS, Obamacare, go.
Doesn't SCOTUS sound like a sexual disease, by the way?
Listen, I had that cleared up a long time ago.
Yeah. All right, a couple of quick things here. The Anti-Injunction Act that Joe and others have talked about, this was kind of an odd one to come up. It came up through the circuits. One of the circuits ruled, we can't get into all this because it's not right because nobody's been taxed. So we've all focused in on the tax issue. We're litigating in this case, too. And the fact of the matter is, in addition to the fact that the president and others said it wasn't a tax at the time, you need to make a stronger argument when you're in front of the court. And when you look at the tax cases in front of the court, what is a tax and what's a penalty, it's a very weak argument for the government. That's pretty much why they decided to pull back. There is a huge difference between a penalty and a tax, a direct tax for a benefit. This is not a direct tax for a benefit. No matter how you slice it, it's a five-pronged test, and I'm not going to get into all that with you, based on Supreme Court precedent. That's, I believe, argued today. The individual mandate, we've all talked about at great length. There is no precedent for this, not Social Security, not Medicare, not any of it, because, again, you are ordering individuals to enter into a private contract with a private company that has to order you a policy that's written by the government, in essence. That's never been done in American history. That just is one step too far. Another surprise is the federalism issue that's going to be argued, Medicaid. The states and federal government have a pact, in essence. The federal government pays about half of Medicaid. And what this administration is saying through Obamacare is either you follow the regulations we give you or we're withholding all your Medicaid money. And the challenge is, under the 10th Amendment, you don't have that power. So the court wanted to hear that. The severability issue is a little more complicated. Now, does the entire law fall if a material part of it is held unconstitutional? Courts have, in fact, upheld statutes that don't have severability clauses. The problem with this one is it is so complicated, it is so big, and in the past, the legislators and the government have argued that each piece fits like a neat, piece of a puzzle. Does the court really want to get into the business of remaking what is a massive bill that they probably don't comprehend either? And then lately, there's been an effort by the government to emphasize what's called the necessary and proper clause. And to keep this as simple as I can, as it relates to the Commerce Clause, what they're trying to do is go through the back door and say, look, we all agree the federal government can regulate health care. This isn't really a big deal. They regulate health care now. This is just an addition to that. It's necessary and proper for financial reasons and economic reasons and whatever, and the court really shouldn't look behind it. It's just necessary and proper. Well, that interpretation of the necessary and proper clause would destroy the enumeration parts of all the rest of the Constitution. All of this is addressed in the briefs. If people are interested, they can go Google the various briefs or Google the Supreme Court generally, and you'll see the briefs. You can go to landmarklegal.org. We've addressed several of the issues. We couldn't address all of them, and you'll take a look at it there. But the bottom line is this. If this statute is upheld, America changes. There's absolutely no question about that. Congress will have power that is not enumerated. It'll have plenary power. It can pass laws because it can pass laws, not because it's within the constitutional construct. And what else is going to happen is when you have a multi-thousand-page law that's turned over to the bureaucracy, you're going to have 10 times as many regulations. So much of your health care, much of your life, the way you live, how you live, and so forth, can all be come under the rubric of health care. Is going to be ordered and directed by regulation through faceless bureaucrats at HHS. That is what's going to happen. We know it. The left knows it. They pretend it's all about everybody getting health care. And one last point. Everybody will get health care. The question is whether everybody actually gets medical care.
Right.
You can have a system where everybody's covered. They're all covered in North Korea. They're all covered in Britain. They're all covered everywhere. but doesn't mean you get to go to the dentist. It doesn't mean you get the operation you need. It doesn't mean you get the medicine that you need.
Yeah, also doesn't mean that it's
Did I help you?
No, it did. Although I have a question, though,
Yes.
because I understand the Anti-Injunction Act. We went through this, whether or not you can bring it up now because it doesn't really take effect until 2014. But does the crux of this argument, the crux of this case, boil down to the individual mandate? I mean, is that what's going to be argued here? Is that what the whole thing is based on? Is there something more than just the individual mandate?
You mean under the Anti-Injunction Act argument?
No, I'm past the anti-injunction.
No, you understand the reason they're doing 6 hours in 3 days is they want to hear each one of these issues. If they get 5 justices to say under the Anti-Injunction Act this case isn't ripe, it's over.
Then it's over.
But what happens is for the rest of us, the individual mandate kicks in, the penalty kicks in, all the other rules kick in. They're going to go hyperspeed to institute this, and then some disgruntled taxpayer like me or you or somebody will bring up the case. It'll be heard 2 years from now, but this thing will be so thoroughly dug in, it's going to be very hard to pull it out. So,
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So let's just say we get past the Anti-Injunction Act and they say we'll take the case. Then is the whole case based on the individual mandate? I mean, is that the big issue here? Is that the heart of the problem?
They've taken the case, the whole case, and they're taking its part. Well, the individual mandate issue is the biggest issue because it affects everybody, and because if it goes down, it's kind of hard to see how they sever that out from the rest of the statute. But you never know; funnier things have happened. But there's no question that that's the key, and that's why a lot of people are focused on that. And let's keep in mind why they did that. They could have set it up like Social Security, but it would have been unpopular.
Mm-hmm.
Obama said he wasn't going to raise taxes on the middle class. It would have required a tax increase. But they didn't. They did everything they possibly could to avoid it. And then they go into court and they argue it's just like Social Security. And, of course, we and others argued, no, it's actually just not like Social Security because you purposely called it a penalty. And, in fact, it is a penalty.
Right.
That's why they backed off and they're looking for a higher ground. And, by the way, that's typical in litigation, too. They kind of schmooze their arguments, and now what they're doing is throwing a lot of mud at the wall and hoping something will stick to uphold the statute. But the individual mandate, to me, is the key, obviously. But the necessary and proper clause, you see some of the liberal columnists pushing this?
Right.
Because they're trying to affect the court. They want the court to read these columns. If the necessary and proper clause is used to uphold Obamacare, then we might as well wipe out most of the rest of the Constitution and say, look, the government needs to do these things because they're necessary and proper.
I got 30 seconds.
Go.
I'm serious. 30 seconds, and
Yes.
you know the boss will be on me if we don't get to traffic on time, okay?
Yes.
Is it time for Santorum and Newt Gingrich to get out?
Well, let's say I said it is. What the hell good does that do? Yes, everybody, get out. Well, they're not getting out, and let me tell you why. They don't think it's not that they necessarily think they can win. They don't think Romney can get the delegates. Mm-hmm. And I want people out there to understand, so you have to earn the Republican nomination. As somebody who was in the Reagan 76 effort against Ford, he was urged to get against a sitting Republican president who he almost toppled. And they said there's no way he can do it and so forth. And Reagan said, look, I'm running on ideas. I'm running for the future of the country. I'm running for the future of the Republican Party. And he said, I understand the establishment wants me to get out, but I'm not getting out.
All right. Mark Levin, you can hear more from 6 to 9. Also got a new book out of Maritopia.